3 bone-chilling Craigslist horror stories you've never heard, haunts me still at 3 a.m. The night felt heavy, thick with dread, as Sarah scrolled through Craigslist while the clock ticked mercilessly towards 3 a.m. In the dim glow of her screen, ordinary listings morphed into sinister traps, whispered warnings lurking behind casual posts. She stumbled upon a section labeled Free Stuff, a graveyard of desperation where people offered their unwanted possessions. But among the usual junk lay an ad that sent chills down her spine: free couch, perfect condition. Pick up only. You won't regret it. The phrase echoed in her mind like a ghostly chant. Hours earlier, her friend Julia had warned her about strange occurrences linked to items from the site. People find curses in their purchases. Julia had said, her eyes wide, you never really know who had it before. Now, Sarah couldn't shake the sense of being watched as she continued to read. Suddenly, a new message popped up in her inbox. It was from the couch seller: I can deliver it tonight if you're interested. It's waiting for you. Her pulse quickened. Who was this person? Why tonight? As she hesitated, remembering stories of fortunate finds turned horrific, another detail struck her like a fist. A picture had appeared with the ad: a worn, faded couch, but the background showed an unsettling glimpse into a shadowy room. A faint glimmer of what appeared to be a dusty child's toy hung in the corner, and a long, twisted figure was barely visible in the dark, watching. She gasped, the lump in her throat choking back the words, "This is too creepy." Just then, a knock echoed from her front door. It was faint but distinct, almost like a beckoning. Sarah's heart raced, a tightness in her chest threatening to swallow her whole. Panicking, she grabbed her phone, fingers trembling, remembering the countless tales of online haunts that rattled her. Could she really ignore this warning? What if the couch really held the secrets of its previous owners? What if they were still there? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As anxiety gripped her, she leaned closer to the screen. The figure in the photo lurked increasingly in her mind, like a shadow weaving into her very soul. The darkness of the night pushed against her windows, and the peace of her own home felt eerily fragile. Whatever it was, it called to her. The knocks grew louder, more insistent. Driven by fear and curiosity, Sarah stood, face pale, as a decision weighed on her. Was this moment about to reveal a hidden horror, or was it the key to something she couldn't yet understand? Should I answer? She whispered, her voice trembling into the silence, knowing that something sinister waited on the other side. The knocking intensified, a rhythmic heartbeat echoing through her small apartment. Sarah clutched her phone tightly, the screen lighting her face with an eerie glow. A desperate conflict raged inside her. Every horror story she had ever read, every warning she'd overheard, flickered before her eyes. Should she flee? Ignore it? Or take the plunge and confront the unknown? With every passing second, the tension thickened. The shadows in her living room seemed to crawl closer, whispering secrets just out of reach. Swallowing hard, Sarah found herself inching toward the door, her own footsteps sounding foreign in the oppressive hush. The couch was mere minutes away, a tangible object begging for a decision. What if it was an opportunity, something ready to share its hidden tale? With a deep breath, she grasped the doorknob, feeling the cold metal against her sweaty palm. Just as her heartbeat began to slow, she hesitated. What if it's a mistake, she thought. But then that morning's conversation with Julia echoed in her mind. Don't let fear stop you from exploring. Just stay smart. Summoning her determination, she turned the knob and swung the door open. The corridor outside was dark, swallowed by the night. No one stood there. Just silence, enveloping her in an icy embrace. Was it the trick of her mind playing games? Or had she been lured into an illusion? "Hello." She called out, forcing herself to sound braver than she felt. Still nothing. Just the pressing weight of stillness. As she turned to shut the door, a voice cut through the quiet. "Did you think I wouldn't come?" Startled, she spun around. The man grinned, his eyes too wide, glimmering like shards of glass caught in the moonlight. He stood at the edge of the dim light spilling from her doorway, the faint outline of the couch visible behind him in shadow, like a monster lurking just out of sight. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. "You're the couch seller?" She managed, relief and fear crashing together in a wave. "I told you it's waiting for you," he said, stepping closer. "You asked for it." The man moved as if gliding, a predatory grace trailing behind him. With each step, the air felt thicker, the warmth of her home replaced by an unsettling chill. The sweater she wore suddenly seemed inadequate, as if the very fabric betrayed her. What do you mean?" she stammered, backing away instinctively. "I didn't ask for anything." His lips curled into an unnerving smile. "Oh, but you did. You're just too afraid to admit it. The couch has stories to tell, Sarah. Stories just for you." Panic surged within her. The temperature plummeted, and the darkness seemed to listen, coiling itself around Sarah like a suffocating shroud. She felt trapped, with every instinct screaming at her to run. But as she glanced back to flee inside, the door slammed shut, sealing her fate. "No!" she yelled, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a wild animal. She turned back to the mysterious figure, who now stood mere inches away, a menacing presence cast in shadow. "Welcome to your choice," he whispered ominously. "Now, let us see what secrets await in the couch." As that dread-filled invitation hung in the air, Sarah's mind raced. What was she about to uncover? Was she ready to unearth the dark history that the couch carried? The moment stretched, holding her breath captive as she faced the palpable menace before her. And just when she thought it couldn't get any worse, she felt a cold hand gripping her shoulder from behind. What would lie in wait for her beyond the door? Sarah's heart nearly stopped. The icy grip on her shoulder tightened, sending a wave of panic crashing over her. She whirled around, ready to confront whatever horror had dared to sneak up on her, but found only the oppressive darkness stretching behind her. There was nothing there. Just shadows playing tricks with her mind. "Did you feel that?" she gasped, spinning back to the man who appeared almost too eager, his eyes shining with a strange, unsettling excitement. "What did you do?" He chuckled softly, a sound that did not reach his hollow eyes. "This isn't about me, Sarah. It's about the couch and what it wants to share with you. The stories it holds. They're calling you." "Calling me?" Her voice trembled as dread pooled in her stomach, heavier than lead. "I don't want anything from that couch. I just came here to look." "Ah, but that's just the thing." He leaned closer, lowering his voice to a conspiratorial whisper, "You are part of this story now. Whether you want to be or not. You opened the door, and with that action, you became a player in a game far older than you can comprehend." Sarah's instincts screamed at her to escape, yet something deeper, the relentless curiosity implanted by countless horror stories, held her in place. Her mind wrestled with the sudden surge of adrenaline, battling the allure of the unknown against the desire for safety. "What kind of game?" she managed to ask, her voice barely audible above the pounding of her heartbeat. "The game of secrets," he replied, his grin widening. "Every stitch in that couch is woven with the tales of those before you who dared to sit, who listened when darkness spoke." She felt a chill pulse through the air. Images flickered in her mind, echoes of laughter, whispered confessions that replayed in the depths of night, and the shadows which could turn even the warmest home into a theater of dread. Suddenly, the man shifted, pointing toward the couch that loomed behind him like a slumbering giant. "Go ahead, sit. Let it show you what you've been seeking." "What I've been seeking?" It felt like a taunt, the walls closing in around her as if daring her to make a choice. "I didn't ask for this." "Perhaps not explicitly," he said, tilting his head slightly, as if examining her closely. "But your heart longs for truth, doesn't it? Underneath the fear, beneath the facade of comfort you cling to there lies hidden knowledge." She took a step back, her hands trembling. It was as if he held a mirror to her deepest doubts, and she hated him for it. "I'll talk to you. Just don't push me toward that couch." He smirked, a predator in the night. "Too late for words, dear Sarah. You're already at the threshold. What you don't realize is that the couch has chosen you." Behind him, the couch seemed to shift, the fabric undulating as if it were breathing. Sarah felt the urge to scream, but it caught in her throat when a whisper seeped into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like fingers pinching the edges of her sanity. "Sarah, come sit." Her breath hitched. It was her name. She hadn't imagined it. She took another hesitant step forward, the pull becoming unbearable. Was this truly what she wanted? Or had curiosity led her straight into a trap? Just as she was about to move closer, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, shaking her from the spell. She fished it out, glancing at the screen and felt her stomach drop. It was a message from Julia. "Sarah. Get away from the couch. Don't." But before she could process the words, darkness surged from the corners of her apartment, racing towards her, filling the void with an oppressive weight. "Time's up, Sarah," the man crooned, eyes gleaming with malevolence. "The couch won't wait forever." An impulsive surge of fear seized her, and she grabbed the door handle, only to find it was now stuck, as if the darkness were holding it shut. She was trapped. The weight of her decision loomed large. What awaited her beyond the couch? What sacrifices would she have to make? "Stay with me," the shadows whispered sweetly, "just sit down." And then everything went black, the world around her dissolving. What lay ahead would either tear her apart or unveil the truth she had unknowingly sought her entire life. Was this the end, or just the beginning of her descent into terror? The answers swirled just beyond the veil of darkness. The darkness wrapped around her like a thick shroud, smothering her senses. Time was a blur, and Sarah felt weightless as if she were suspended in some nightmarish void. But then, a light flickered, and reality slammed back into focus. She found herself in a different place, a small, dimly lit room, the suffocating scent of damp fabric enveloping her. "Welcome," a voice cooed from the shadows. It was soft, almost affectionate, yet laced with a sinister undertone that set her teeth on edge. Sarah squinted, searching for the source of the voice. The room was furnished with various odds and ends, a hodgepodge of discarded items that hinted at past lives. But her gaze locked onto the couch in the corner, the same couch that had called to her. It seemed larger now, more imposing, as if it had grown from the very fabric of this strange room. "What is this place?" she demanded, her voice shaking. The man's form coalesced into the light, his grin an unsettling crescent. "This is where the stories begin, dear Sarah. Every item in this room has a tale, each one a reflection of the darkness within. And now, you're tied to them. And no." She backed away, fear clawing at her throat. "I didn't ask for this." "Ah, but you've already invited it in." He leaned against the wall, arms folded. "You must confront what you've awakened. Or else what?" She pressed, anger mixing with fear. The room felt alive, the air charged with an unseen energy, as whispers began to surf the edges of her consciousness. "Or else you'll never leave," he said, his eyes glimmering with malice. With every breath, the room twisted around her. Shadows danced on the walls, forming unsettling shapes that writhed and merged like creatures in agony. She turned to the couch once more, an inexplicable force drawing her in, compelling her to uncover the truth nestled within its cushiony depths. "Don't," he warned, his voice dropping to a serious tone. "Every seat taken tells a story, and some stories never let go." Suddenly, she heard a soft moan, a sound that echoed from the couch. It was the sound of pain, despair entwined in breath, a cry from someone who had once sat there. Unbidden, curiosity flickered inside of her, battling against the gnawing terror. Someone did sit here," she whispered, approaching the sofa slowly. "They didn't just sit." He stepped closer, his gaze fixed on the couch. "They listened. They pleaded." A voice wailed through the air, laced with sorrow, "Help me." Sarah's heart raced. Was she truly ready to delve into the darkness? Would she uncover the dreadful secrets or find herself ensnared like the others? She hesitated, panic merging with temptation. "Do you feel that?" he prompted, moving closer still. "Their memories linger in every fiber of that couch. You could learn so much if you're brave enough." Her hands trembled, inching toward the couch. But before she could take that final step, the shadows shifted violently, swirling to life. The whispers grew into a cacophony, threatening to drown out her thoughts. "Stay with us, Sarah," they beckoned, enticing yet terrifying. "You could never be alone again." "No," she cried, pulling her hands back. "This isn't what I wanted." The air thickened, the room vibrating with tension as if it were alive, pulsating to the rhythm of her fear. The man's laughter echoed eerily, and Sarah realized she needed a plan. To sit would be to surrender, but could she escape a past that had chosen her? A chilling doubt crept in. What if it was too late? Just as the weight of despair threatened to consume her, a flicker of determination sparked. She wouldn't be just another story lost to the couch. With a surge of will, she turned to flee, but the shadows lunged forward, clawing at her ankles, dragging her back toward the encroaching dark. Was hope still within reach, or had she already doomed herself by daring to uncover what was hidden? The voice from the couch whispered again, more urgent this time, "You must decide." And in that moment, Sarah faced the ultimate question: would she embrace the darkness or fight it? But would she have enough strength left to choose before it dragged her down into the abyss? The shadows surged forward, and the answer danced just out of reach. The shadows recoiled, a living mass of nightmares and regrets, but Sarah was not ready to surrender. She could feel their icy fingers brushing her skin, seeping into her mind like a fog. Adrenaline surged through her system, and without thinking, she dashed for the door hidden in the wall. It was locked, of course. Heart pounding, she twisted the handle frantically, rattling it as if pure will could force it open. "Let me out!" she shouted, panic rising like bile in her throat. The man in the shadows chuckled softly. "It's not that simple. You think this room will merely let you escape? No, my dear. You need to confront what you fear most." "Fear? I fear nothing," she blustered. But within her, she felt the truth of those words shatter like glass. She was terrified of what awaited her if she failed to escape this place, and terrified of what she might discover if she ventured too close to that cursed couch. The whispers grew louder. "Join us, Sarah. You belong with us." The walls pulsed as if they were alive, seeping despair that clung to her like a heavy blanket. Each breath tasted bitter, filled with the echoes of lost souls who had come before her. She turned, finding herself facing the couch again. It loomed like a malevolent beast, every fiber woven with memories that clawed at her sanity. "No!" she yelled defiantly, raising her hands as if to ward off the darkness. "I want to listen. I want to play this game." But the shadows shot forth, sweeping her off her feet, stinging her skin. She landed with a thud, and the room rocked as she rolled on the floor. Suddenly, an image flickered in her mind, as vivid as the room around her. A woman's face screaming, the shock pierced the fog of fear, making her gasp. What happened to her? The grin on the man's face widened, revealing teeth like daggers. She sat too long, embraced the despair, and now she's just another whisper, beckoning you to join her. No. Sarah surged to her feet, scrambling back toward the door. "I refuse to be a part of this." The urgency in her voice filled her with a sense of bravery she hadn't thought possible. "You can't run from yourself," he thundered, an edge of fury creeping into his tone. You are already tangled in this web. You have to face your darkness. She hesitated, a flicker of doubt clawing at her resolve. The urge to turn back and sit down was strong, the pain of the past felt both powerful and familiar. But she wouldn't let it claim her. Gripping the memories of her own life, her dreams, her joys, she pivoted back to face the shadows once more. I choose to fight, she proclaimed, asserting a strength that started to ignite within her. I want to be a prisoner of this. But just as her courage seemed to pierce through the gloom, the shadows retaliated violently, surging toward her like a tidal wave. She felt the weight of despair dragging her down, an overwhelming force threatening to consume her. What would she sacrifice to escape? With one final push, she lunged for the couch, determined to uncover the truth hidden inside. What terrible story did it hold? What memories clung to its fabric? The moment her fingertips brushed against its surface, a blinding flash illuminated the room, and she was pulled into a vivid, chaotic whirlpool of voices screaming, crying, and pleading. And as the darkness surged around her, a single thought echoed like thunderous bellows in her mind. Fight for your truth, Sarah. But will you like what you find? The shadows engulfed her, leaving only the whisper of uncertainty and the dawning realization that her choice was only just beginning. The flash was overwhelming, a kaleidoscope of voices crashing around Sarah like waves against a rocky shore. Each voice carried a distinct anguish, a heartache that clung to her skin like a cold sweat. She tried to scream, but no sound escaped her lips. It was as if the room had swallowed her whole, plastering her to the couch that she once dared to confront. Her eyes fluttered open, and suddenly she was alone, the cacophony replaced by silence that pressed heavily against her chest. The couch loomed before her, but it was different now. The fabric shimmered, revealing shadows that twisted into fleeting images, her life, memories captured in a dreadful transparent film. She saw herself smiling, laughing, and then, the darkness seeped in. Pain etched her face as betrayal, grief, and guilt sliced through her heart like a knife. Is this what I've become? She thought as the memories rolled on, relentless and unforgiving. There was her mother's funeral, the way her father had looked, hollowness behind his eyes. Was that her fault? The shadows wrapped around her tighter, tightening their hold like a serpent about to strike. You have a choice, the man's voice echoed from nowhere, and yet everywhere. Do you face your truth, or do you let it consume you? No. She shouted, though her voice quivered. I want to let you in. She was losing the battle. Every memory curled around her like a vice, squeezing out her breath. Despair clung to her like a fog, choking her will, but then, a warmth blossomed in her chest, startling her. She remembered the laughter of friends, the sunlight on her skin, the taste of freedom. She could almost hear their voices beckoning her. Fight, Sarah. Don't become their whisper. Gathering what little strength she could muster, she stepped closer to the couch, eyes locked with it. I'm not afraid of you, she declared, fierceness igniting her spirit anew. The images intensified, splintering into chaotic visions that threatened to devour her, but she pushed on. Face what you fear most, she roared, trembling but resolute. Suddenly, everything froze. Time winded down to a fragile pause. In that stillness, a solitary image appeared, her reflection, but not just any reflection. It was her, sitting inertly on the couch, eyes glazed over, trapped within the memory of sorrow and regret. The couch pulsed as if alive, feeding off her anguish, a mirror of her own mind. The shadows lurked at the edges, whispering desperately, join us, Sarah. You have nothing left. Give in. No. She cried out, her voice echoing through the silence. I choose to break free. With that declaration, the couch rejected her existence, jerking backward as if it had been wounded. She felt a jolt surge through her, the energy igniting every nerve ending, enveloping her like a shield against the pain. Instead of pulling away, she pressed her hands into the fabric, anchoring herself to the truth, no matter how dark it was. She glimpsed the faces of screams, the unknown women who had languished, lost like her. They were the echoes of her past, reminders of despair, but also of strength. Could she transform them, too? The shadows convulsed violently, as if fighting against her defiance. In that moment, the room shook with rage, and the lights began to flicker wildly. The whispers morphed into roars of rejection, and she felt the walls tremble around her, just when she believed she had found the truth. When clarity surged like a violent tide, the couch ripped open, revealing a void so deep, it threatened to swallow everything whole. She gasped and stumbled back, lost in the oppressive darkness. "Sarah!" A voice cried, familiar and urgent. It cut through the chaos, and for a fleeting moment, she recalled the warmth of her childhood home. "Save us!" With a final rush of adrenaline, she leaned forward once more, the choice instantly weighing on her. Would she succumb to the darkness surrounding her, or could she not only save herself, but also those lost within the depths? What would happen if she dove deeper, embracing the darkness to seek out the light? The question lingered. As she reached for the void, the choice laid bare: everything to lose or everything to gain. What price would she pay to unearth the buried truths? She felt herself drawn to the void, a gravity that promised liberation but also death. Just as her fingers grazed the edge of darkness, a cold wind swept through the room, chilling her to the bone. The shadows danced, twisting and curling around her form, whispering secrets she longed to unearth yet feared to acknowledge. "Dive deeper, Sarah," they hissed, voices huddled like conspirators in her mind. "Embrace what you truly are. Don't you want to know why you feel so lost?" Her heart pounded. In this electric moment, she realized the shadows weren't just memories, they were echoes of her pain transformed into something dark and hungry. Yet a flicker of defiance ignited within her, refusing to let despair take hold entirely. "I refuse to be your vessel," she shouted, feeling her courage spill into the room. The darkness pulsed, a living entity, recoiling at her words. Yet, the wrestling shadows only intensified, swirling around her and tightening their grip. "Then do you believe you can save them?" A sharp voice cut through the man who had haunted her nightmares. He coalesced from the shadows, his eyes gleaming with wicked delight. "What makes you think you're strong enough to be their savior?" "Because I'm not alone," she bit back, the warmth of remembered love wrapping around her like a blanket. "There's still light inside me." The walls shook in response, trembling as if they could sense the power of her words. The couch throbbed violently, and with every thud, memories surged: her friends who had walked away, the happy moments that turned bitter, the love that turned to hurt. Each wave crashed against her, but instead of pulling her back into despair, they catalyzed her resolve. "I won to let you win." She yelled into the chaos, a well of anger rising. It was no longer about her fear, it was about the lost souls, the women waiting in the darkness for a hand to reach out. Their faces appeared in the dark, pleading and desperate, and she felt her heart swell with determination. With a final surge of strength, she dove into the void. The sensation of falling was both freeing and terrifying as shadows wrapped around her like a shroud. But she kept her eyes open, focusing on the flickers of light haunting the edges of her vision. They beckoned like stars on the darkest night, shards of hope amidst the suffocating darkness. "Sarah!" A chorus of voices rang out, merging into one. They were the women, her sisters in pain, crying out for release. "Help us! Hold on!" She cried out, using every ounce of belief she could muster. "We're not trapped. We can break free together." Suddenly, the void shifted, and bright strands of light surged towards her, cutting through the shadows like a knife. With each heartbeat, she felt the grasp of despair start to weaken. Hope coursed through her veins, igniting every fiber of her being, but just as she felt their energy surrounding her, the man's laughter echoed, sharp and mocking. "You think you can save them? Think again." And with that, the shadows lunged, taking on grotesque forms, twisting into the nightmares she had buried deep. Faces of the lost flickered and faded, caught in the chaos, caught between light and darkness. Sarah gasped as she realized the price of her choice. Their fate was tied to her own. But could she bridge the gap, embrace the hurt and ignite the healing? The waves of shadows surged once more. As she wrestled against their fierce pull, the air thickened, and she felt herself teetering on the brink of everything she had fought so hard against. With the final, desperate breath, she shouted, "I will find you. No matter the cost." But just then, she felt the cold touch of fear claw at her throat. The shadows grew heavier, and the man's voice boomed in her mind, "What if you're not strong enough? What if you become one of them?" The question hung in the air like a storm, leaving a chilling echo of uncertainty that reverberated deep within her. Could she truly confront the darkness, or would she be swept away into the abyss with those she struggled to save? In that moment of volatile suspense, she understood that the battle had only just begun. The darkness swirled thicker, heavy with dread, as Sarah felt her breath quicken. Shadows clawed at her, eager to pull her down into their cold embrace. Each flicker of light grew fainter, and anxiety knotted in her stomach. Would her light extinguish before she could reach out to the lost souls? "Focus," she whispered through clenched teeth, wrestling with the tension around her. The dark energy vibrated with malice, sending jolts through her limbs, but she gritted her teeth, refusing to relent. "I am not afraid of you." With that defiant proclamation, the force of her will sparked, momentarily pushing back the shadows. For a heart-stopping moment, she felt their grip weaken. She reached out toward the flickering forms, those faces that had once been mere specters in her mind. Their eyes widened with hope, pleading for rescue. "I'm here," she shouted, her voice piercing through the swirling chaos. "We can break these chains together." But the man's laughter echoed, a cruel reminder of his presence. "You're all lost, Sarah. They're bound to this darkness, just as you are. You become me, your strength siphoned. Can you handle that burden?" The shadows lunged forward in a frenzy, and the faces of the women morphed into grotesque masks of sorrow. Each one told a story of anguish, of betrayal, and of dreams extinguished. They closed in, a suffocating fog of despair wrapping around her chest. Panic rose, but she fought it down, drawing upon the warmth nestled within her heart. "Each scream, each tear, every moment we lose matters," she yelled, propelling her voice into the darkness. "I won't let you silence them. I won't give in." Just then, from the depths, a surge of energy coursed through her. It was the light, a palpable force that danced through her veins, igniting every shadowy corner within. She felt it, she wasn't alone. The women responded, their energies swirling around her, pushing back against the darkness. For a heartbeat, she felt their strength, a wave of solidarity rising to meet her. As the shadows recoiled, the man's voice turned venomous. "You dare think you can stand against me? Think again, child. Darkness doesn't fade, it consumes." Sarah pushed back, heart racing, amplifying every flicker of light she could conjure. "Not today," she declared, her voice stronger than ever. She focused on the faces, using their pain as fuel. "We can heal. Your stories deserve to be told." Feeling the connection strengthen, she reached out, mentally linking with them, pulling their stories into her consciousness. The cries of the lost morphed into a cacophony of truth. Love turned to grief, laughter turned to despair. She forced herself to embrace it all, not for herself, but for them. The man sputtered angrily as the shadows pulsed and twisted, unraveling at the seams. "No. You cannot wield them." But Sarah felt a surge unlike anything before, a triumphant energy cascading as light stretched deeper into the void. It was raw, untamed and fierce, and it clawed against despair with every ounce of shared pain. Yet, as she channeled this power, doubt seeped in again. "What if I fail?" her inner voice whispered, trembling with uncertainty. The shadows clawed back, intent on retreating forward. In that instant, she understood the weight of their experiences could crush her. Or, they could lead to liberation. She steeled her resolve, forcing back the creeping darkness that tried to suffocate her spirit. Together, she whispered fiercely, "We are stronger than you." But just as the tide began to turn, the foundation around her began to buckle. The air crackled, thick with tension, the man's voice taunting and furious, you'll regret this, Sarah. Nothing good can come from this path of chaos. The shadows recoiled, twisting into monstrous forms, each rooted deeper in her unprocessed fears. A cavernous silence hung in the air as Sarah felt the weight of their previous experiences pressing hard against her. Could she truly transform this despair into something meaningful without losing herself? The overwhelming dread surged, the stakes rising as her heart hammered against her ribcage. The darkness would not relent without a fight, and deep within her, the true test began. Holding on to the light felt perilous, a tightrope suspended over oblivion. Would she find the strength to confront the darkness head-on, or would she falter, lost in the weight of her own struggle? As the shadows loomed closer, the final challenge awaited, and all she could do was breathe and prepare for the unknown. The moment to decide was fast approaching, and the screams of the lost echoed in her ears. Could she truly rise up, or was she forever trapped in their haunting shadow? The air thundered around Sarah, crackling with the energy of despair and determination. Shadows roared as they twisted and contorted, their dark forms writhed in her vision like sinister serpents, eager to pull her into their depths. Each pulse of energy that surged through her felt like a fire igniting a battlefield, but she was caught in the crossfire where the anguish of the lost collided with her will to fight. "Don't look away," she urged herself. Her heart raced, thudding like a war drum. The faces of the women swirled around her, glowing faintly with the light she had awakened within them. Each one resonated with their own pain, memories flooding in like a torrential downpour. Suddenly, another explosion of laughter, a cruel, mocking sound echoed in the void. "You think you can save them? You think you can save yourself?" The man's voice dripped with disdain. "They're too far gone, Sarah. You're lost, just like them." A chilling shiver ran down her spine, clawing at her resolve. Could it be true? The weight of countless sorrows tugged at her heart, burying her under layers of self-doubt. In that moment of vulnerability, she felt the old fear creep back in. "What if I'm not enough?" she muttered, her voice barely a whisper, but the flickering faces of the lost began to glow brighter, urging her to fight harder. An urge coursed through her, rising like a tide, igniting her spirit. "No!" she shouted, drawing from the well of shared experiences the laughter, the tears, the heartbreaks. "You are not just your pain. Together, we can be free." With that rallying cry, Sarah thrust her hand forward, pushing against the darkness. The light expanded outward, burning hotter, wrapping around her like a protective shield. Each story she pulled inside herself was like fuel to a roaring fire. She felt the sharp claws of shadows curl around her ankles and wrists, threatening to drag her down. But she pressed on, her voice booming, echoing through the chaos. "Your voices deserve to be heard. No one else can tell your stories. I will not betray you." The shadows shrieked, various shapes and sizes morphing into ugly reflections of despair. For a split second, Sarah's thoughts flashed to her own past, her failures, her regrets, her fears. Wouldn't it be easier to succumb? As darkness swarmed, it whispered sweet lies, promising peace if she simply surrendered. But she thrust it away. "I can't. You win." A blinding flash erupted. The cacophony of fear morphed into a haunting melody, the darkness fracturing as light seeped through the fractures. It was intoxicating, a beautiful blend of sorrow and strength. It lifted her, wrapping her in comfort as the shadows recoiled, wailing in anger. But just as hope began to blossom, the ground beneath her trembled violently. A fissure cracked open, surrounding her with a chasm of inky blackness. Panic surged. "Oh no!" she gasped, feeling the pull of the void. But she refused to fall. Heart pounding, she reached for the energy of the souls around her. "You are all with me," she shouted as the light erupted again, almost blinding in its intensity, like the dawn breaking through the darkest night. Yet, from the bowels of the abyss, the man's form began to solidify, a grotesque caricature of darkness shrouded in rage. "You'll regret this fight, Sarah. You will pay dearly." Fighting the rising dread in her chest, she screamed, "I am not afraid. But the reality of the confrontation loomed larger than the shadows, and her heartbeat quickened as she realized the deeper truth: this would be a battle of wills. The light flickered, struggling to maintain its radiance in the face of despair. Would it be enough? Could she stand firm against the embodiment of her worst fears? Would the stories of the lost women lift her up, or was she destined to be consumed by the dark? A deafening silence hung in the air like an electric charge, and as Sarah steadied her breath, she braced herself for the ultimate clash. The true fight was only just beginning, and the shadows were closing in once more, their advances relentless. In that moment, beneath the onslaught of fear, her resolve solidified. But just as she gathered herself, cracks of darkness splintered around her, and a chilling realization dawned. What if she was the one they had been waiting for? And what if she fell? In the thick of that dreadful silence, a spark ignited inside Sarah. She finally understood: the courage to confront her fears was not found in fighting them but in embracing them. She could not run. She would not shut them away again. "Together, we rise," she shouted, forcing every ounce of determination into those words. Suddenly, the figures of the women around her, these echoes of despair, began to respond. She saw their faces clear now, each carrying stories etched into their eyes. Pain, heartbreak, loss. They stood alongside her, united. The shadows writhed, trying to pull her back with whispers of doubt, but she held on to the warmth of their spirits, that flicker of hope blazing brightly in the darkness. "I will not become one of you," she cried. "You are not my future." The walls shook, the very air crackled under the sheer force of her resolve. Light burst forth, pouring out from every crack in the fabric of the darkness, scorching away the tendrils that sought to keep her trapped. She felt each scream and each sob of the women behind her fuse into her energy, lending her strength. The man twisted in anger, contorting his features into feral shapes. "You think mere words can save you?" His laugh was a low, rumbling thunder. But Sarah didn't flinch. She felt the power of their stories thrumming through her veins, radiating a warmth that countered the encroaching night around her. "No. My words will weave our truth into strength," she declared, and with every syllable, she felt the shadows recoil. Each woman behind her, once trapped, began to shimmer like ghosts caught in sunlight. They lifted their heads, supporting Sarah's growing power, building an unseen wall against the encroaching darkness. The man roared, attempting to regain control, his voice like the crack of a whip. "You cannot defy this. They are lost, and so will you be." But Sarah felt their collective energy surge with her. "Not lost, we are united," she shouted. With a fierce resolve, she lunged forward. The shadows thrashed against her, but every pulse of fear was drowned out by the resounding cries of the women who had faced unthinkable pain. Everything exploded in an aurora of light. Shadows screeched, bright flashes illuminating the dimensions of the room. She reached toward the man, who was now collapsing in on himself, and screamed, "You have no power here." As light consumed the darkness, Sarah embraced it, every raw anguish of the past, every heart-wrenching memory. They pulsed through her, causing ripples that undermined the foundation of despair built upon those lost souls. In that final moment, the energy burst forth in a blinding light, forcing the shadows to retreat. One last scream erupted from the man, a snarling plea that echoed into the void as he vanished, leaving only whispers of the darkness behind. And just like that, the room transformed. It became bright and vibrant, sunlight spilling in from unseen windows, illuminating the clutter of abandoned memories and burdens, a feeling of peace washing over Sarah. The couch, that accursed piece of furniture, seemed to fade into the backdrop, its power stripped away. Each thread now a reminder of liberation rather than bondage. "Thank you," she breathed, knowing those lost spirits were finally free. And then silence settled softly, a comforting blanket, a world transformed, bathed in warmth and hope. All the voices that once whispered in despair had now become a symphony of strength resonating through her heart. As she stepped back and turned toward the way out, with newfound strength fully coursing through her, Sarah smiled. She was not only alive, she had survived. Each story she touched now woven into her own, she understood their pain, and she had transformed it into power. She had turned darkness into light. With the weight of fear lifted, Sarah opened the door to freedom, stepping back into the world outside. The sun bathed her in golden light, every moment ahead bursting with potential. The shadows were behind her, where they belonged, and with each step, she swore to honor the stories of those lost. A journey concluded, but a life renewed. Sarah was ready to share her truth with the world. Now, remember, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will definitely thrill you. Smash that like button now to feed the hungry algorithm, and fill the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about this intense ride. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support is what keeps this community going strong. Your voice matters. Let us connect.